The undermanned Seattle Seahawks have a chance to make a big statement in Detroit on Monday night. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. It's Sunday. We got a lot of football today, but none of it involves the Seattle Seahawks. We might have rooting interests. The Seahawks might be hoping for one outcome or another. But the Seattle Seahawks play tomorrow night, Monday night, the second of two games. Not a big fan of Monday night splitting their broadcast, by the way. I understand maybe that first week you want to do it for excitement purposes. You want to do it because you're trying to build hype, and you're trying to put as many games on national broadcasts as you can. Don't really know why they're doing it after week one, though, personally. Like, I would prefer they just keep the Monday night games to one a week, but it's not like I'm going to have a hard time knowing which game to focus on this week. Titans-Dolphins probably not getting much attention from me at all. So, yeah. Seattle Seahawks, Detroit Lions. Let's talk about this game. Let's pull it apart. It should be a really good game, right? Theoretically, it should be a very good game. You have the Detroit Lions, who made the NFC title game last year, should have went to the Super Bowl and blew it. And then you've got on the other side the Seattle Seahawks, 3-0 start, exceeding most people's expectations so far, getting some degree of credit from some parts of the general football watching public and the mainstream media, but not the full allotment yet because of who you played. You haven't played anybody yet. You've gotten some layups in here. You've gotten some relatively soft opponents. So Detroit, not a soft opponent. And going into their house, Monday Night Football, primetime, that's a real challenge. That's a real opponent. That's a real game. And I'm excited for it. I wish I could be a little more excited, though, because, quite simply, the Seahawks are missing a lot of weapons they would normally be bringing into a football game. So, we can't talk about this game without talking about that. So, let's get into it now, but before I get into full detail on this game, I want to say thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please click the thumbs up button down below. Helps the channel out. Subscribe if you're new and you want daily Seahawks content. We're very close to 18,500 subs. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. So, Seahawks Lions. Now, the elephant in the room here, and the thing that I'm not really going to be able to get away from when talking about this game, is the front seven. The Seahawks don't really have one. It is so decimated right now. I don't really know what you do. You're missing your top two 3-techs, right? You're missing your top two 3-techs. By the way, one of those 3-techs was basically playing a lot of nose tackle because they wanted to get him on the field as much as they could. Maybe that's part of the stitch-up with him getting hurt. Depends on who you ask. And you're also missing your top two edge rushers. So do the math, right? That is your entire, call it a front four, I guess. It's not really a front four if you think about it in terms of like the 3-4. But that's basically your entire front four. And Jerome Baker, not well either. We might get bad news about him later today or tomorrow. He may not end up playing. So, where normally you'd have Leonard Williams, who was off to a phenomenal start this year, Byron Murphy, that rookie who's been impressing a lot of people so far this season, Uchenna Nwosu, a really, really solid starting edge in this league, and Boye Mafe, who is in the middle of what seems to be a year 3 leap to stardom. You're going to have guys who are good, guys who are interesting, guys who are valuable, but not really anything that you look at and feel great about, right? We're talking about Draymond Jones, who, because of last year, most Seahawks fans don't like. Most Seahawks fans don't like Draymond Jones. I think unfairly, but there is some justification for it. You've got Mike Morris, second-year player who hasn't really played that much so far in his career. I like him. A lot of people like him, but we don't know what we're getting. We've never seen him get big snaps in an NFL game before. You're getting Derek Hall, who, hey, looking really good so far. I'm encouraged by what I see. I like what he's doing, but we've seen him with the benefit of having these guys on the field helping him. Now he doesn't have that. You're looking at Jarran Reed, wily veteran, good player, but at this point in his career, just a rotational piece, not somebody you want playing 40 snaps. Jonathan Hankins, who is a little bit of a hero right now, because he is holding tough against the run in the middle there. And he kind of saved our bacon against Miami because that game could have spun out of control if he wasn't in there controlling so much space. But this is not what we planned when we went out to Detroit in our heads when this season started, right? In our heads, we were thinking about having all these guys going up against Detroit's awesome offensive line. And that's where this game starts, right? The Detroit front against Seattle's front when Detroit has the ball. That's like the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, except the immovable object is, I mean, it's pretty movable because all the component pieces of that immovable object have been swapped out with pieces that can be moved. So Detroit's obviously missing Frank Ragnow. That's no small thing either. That could cause problems. And it does give me some degree of hope that it'll offset some of our losses, but that was back when I thought maybe we would miss 1 or 2 guys. We're missing 4, maybe 5. We'll see about Baker later today or tomorrow. So that is hard to get around because that Detroit offensive line is phenomenal. They lose Frank Ragnow, it hurts, but they're getting great play from Penny Sewell. They've got Taylor Decker on the other side. They've got Graham Glasgow. I think he's playing. To my knowledge, he's still healthy and is still playing. That is a great front, and you needed your horses to keep up with them. So without your horses, you remember that overtime game, Lions-Rams week 1, where the Lions got the ball in overtime and just ran the ball right down the Rams' throat all the way down the field until they got in the end zone to end the game? Yeah, that could be what the Lions decide to do to the Seahawks the whole game, because it would be hard to stop. I'm sorry, it just would be. So I'm prepared for it mentally. I'm prepared to see a Detroit Lions team that runs the ball extremely effectively tomorrow night. And if it happens, I'm not going to trip too hard on it. Right? We got to understand the reality of this situation. We have to understand that if that happens, there was a reason for it. And that teams in the NFL are meant to withstand some injuries. They're not meant to withstand a bunch of injuries to the same place on the team all at once. So, if we find a way to pull it off, if we find a way to at least slow down Detroit to give us a chance in this game, then I got to give preemptive hats off to Mike Macdonald. And this game is an opportunity for him to put on the Superman cape. Because quite honestly, I'm going to say this. Normally, I would like this matchup a lot. I think that this defense, with the way that it plays, with the way that it tries to trick and deceive opposing offenses, would be a great matchup against Jared Goff, who really struggles when defenses aren't showing him everything pre-snap. I would think that our defense would be a great matchup to take out that Lions offense. So if Mike Macdonald finds a way to do it anyway, even without having so many players up front, then wow, we've got a special one. I mean, we already think we probably have a special one. If he does it this week with so much stuff missing up front, then, oh boy, we are cooking. And that's not even, and I'm not even saying we win. I'm saying if we have success on defense, and it can still happen. I'm going to say this. I'm going to go into this game with an open mind. I'm not going to sit there and just wait for us to lose. I'm not. Because I do believe that Macdonald is capable of finding ways to cook up pressure in exotic ways that Detroit does not see coming and throw Jared Goff off his game. It's not that hard to throw Jared Goff off his game. You blitz him, you get pressure on him in ways he wasn't expecting, you force him to throw the ball early, you force him to throw the ball off platform, he's not going to have a lot of success. He's going to have real problems. So I'm not counting it out. Absolutely, I think Macdonald can outduel Ben Johnson. But my question is, are we going to get to that point, or is Detroit going to be able to run the ball on us so successfully that they don't even really have to worry about that stuff? Like, they just get to wear out the defense by keeping it on the ground. Then all the exotic blitzes in the world are not really going to do you any big favors. I like the matchup in the passing game. I like the idea of Devin Witherspoon following Amon-Ra around. I think Devin Witherspoon can take Amon-Ra out of the game. I think that having Woolen follow somebody like a Jameson Williams around is good. I think Woolen can take him out of the game too. I think our secondary matches up great with those receivers. Now, Laporta, I mean, that's a different one. That one maybe not so much, right? Especially if Jerome Baker's not feeling too well. I certainly don't want to see any Tyrese Knight on Sam Laporta violence, because it will be violence not in our favor. But I think that this is a good matchup for the Seahawks. But I think, or I should say, at the very least, I fear that the deficit of talent is going to overcome that. I think the Lions, with the way things are right now, have more talent than the Seahawks. So given that, I feel like it can overcome the deficits on matchup stuff, because I like the matchups. So that's one part of this. There is another part of the game here, and we got to talk about it for a little bit, because the offensive side of the ball is relatively healthy. Like, Abe Lucas is the one guy you're actually missing, and Abe Lucas might never play for you again. So there is a chance to do it that way. K9 is back, so this offense has effectively its full complement of skilled playmakers. Detroit is down Davenport, big part of that interior front, and Barnes, their best linebacker probably. Maybe not their best, but certainly a very important linebacker for them. They're having problems in the secondary so far this year. I don't think they're getting great play from anybody except maybe Brian Branch, who is coming off a concussion. Who knows what he's going to be able to do out there? I know he's playing. Will he be able to play well? That's a little bit harder to deduce. So, thinking about this one, I feel pretty good about our chances to win a lot of matchups in the passing attack and the rushing attack. I actually think this offense is going to be able to put up some stuff on Detroit. I like that matchup too. The only part of this I don't like is, of course, the offensive line. But at the same time, we are about due for a game that at least sucks us in a little bit and makes us think, wow, this offensive line is getting it together. Even if it's a mirage, we are due a mirage or a genuine sign of turnaround. Like, I remember in 2021, Kyle Fuller gave us that mirage. There were a couple games in the early part of the season where Kyle Fuller at center actually started playing really good, and it looked like we maybe found something, and then he fell back to earth a couple weeks later. Excuse me. This cough has not yet left me, even if the cold is mostly gone. My bad. So, offensively, I will say this. There's an opportunity, if you can slow down Aiden Hutchinson, who has been the whole kit and caboodle for Detroit's defense so far this year, right? Like, he has been so incredibly good, it's easy to not even think about the other players Detroit has on that defense. Although it helps that some of the other big names they have are hurt. But Aiden Hutchinson has been on fire so far to start this year, but you know about him, right? You know he's there. And you know that you did pretty well against him last year. He didn't do much against the Seahawks in 2023. Remember that game? So, you throw stuff at him, you throw a chip at him, you throw doubles at him. If Stone Forsythe can have a good game, he had a good game last week. He's proven capable of handling Aiden Hutchinson. Like, he did a pretty good job of it last year. Remember, Forsythe was playing against the Lions last year. Like, you start doing math and you're thinking, they don't really have another super fearsome pass rusher. The secondary, not so great. The linebackers injured because of no Barnes. Like, you could put up some serious numbers on him. So that's why it's hard for me to see this game going the Seahawks way without Geno Smith putting on his own Superman cape, right? We talked about Mike Macdonald on the other side, finding a way to overcome this talent deficit. Well, Geno Smith is going to have another game like he had these last 2 years against Detroit. 2022, he played basically perfect. 2023, almost perfect. He's going to have to play pretty much perfect again. And he's capable of it. In that dome, he likes playing in the dome. He likes playing in the climate-controlled situations. I think he likes playing against this Detroit defense that is very man-heavy. That's another aspect at play here. The Detroit Lions defense likes to play a lot of man coverage. DK and JSN and Lockett and Fant have all been notably good against man coverage this year. The offense as a whole has been better against man coverage. So if you keep getting those matchups, if you keep getting those favorable matchups on the outside with your super skilled receivers against their currently struggling secondary, right? Terrion Arnold is a rookie, and he's been picking up penalties left and right so far this year. Ennis Rakestraw's a rookie. He's not really ready yet anyway, and he's injured now. He may play, he may not play. You know, it's not a great secondary. You could keep up. You could keep up. And you should actually have a little bit of a rushing attack. You should have a little bit of a rushing attack to at least keep balance. But really hard for me to believe that Geno is going to be able to keep up to that degree if you don't protect him. And you've gotten away with not protecting him very well early in the season because of the level of the opponent you played and Geno playing extremely good football. But I think you're going to have to step it up in this game if you actually want to score enough. Because this might be a game where you need to score like 35 to 40 points to win. That's kind of what I'm feeling right now. So it's hard for me to predict that with the offensive line playing the way that it's played so far. You understand? Because I know that a lot of people have said in my comments over the last couple days, hey, we were more injured last year, right? We had a worse defense last year, and we still beat the Lions. Our defense was one of the worst in the league last year. We still beat Detroit. We had a bunch of injuries. We still beat Detroit. I think that analysis, while it is valid, misses one point here. The Seattle Seahawks last year, when they played Detroit, were desperate. They had lost their first game of the year, a humiliating relative blowout loss to the Rams at home, a game they were heavily expected to win in. They had a bunch of injuries. Things looked like they were about to spin out of control. The Seahawks were desperate last year. Can't really say that about the Lions last year. So ask yourself this, and I know this video is a little bit longer than my usual pregame video, but I really want to go into the layers of the game here before I make a prediction. Who needs this win more? The Seahawks or the Lions this year? The Seahawks are 3-0. They're 2 games up in their division. Their division looks like it's not going to be as good as expected. They have the not very good Giants next week after this game. They're thinking, you know that some part of them is probably thinking about the 49ers game as well, which is Thursday night. That's 10 days away. They've got that coming up. And then you've got the Lions, who are 2-1. They've already lost a game they expected to win this year, a home game. They haven't really looked as good as people expected. And they're in that division where you've got the undefeated Vikings. The Packers survived the Jordan Loveless games. I thought they were going to lose every game they played without Jordan Love. They won all of them. And even the Bears, like, don't rule out the Bears. If they figure out the offensive line, I think that's a good team. They probably won't, but that's all they need. If they figure out the offensive line, that's a team that can compete. So if you're Detroit and you're already a game in the hole, and you're already fighting it out in what looks like a very tough division, you need this win very badly. Going to 2-2, like, you can recover from it. But again, I ask, if you're putting these two teams next to each other and you're saying who needs it more, you'd say the Lions. You wouldn't have said that last year. Remember, last year, the Lions started 1-0, beating Kansas City in Kansas City. They felt great about themselves going into that Seahawks game. So the Seahawks, I think, were motivated by desperation, and that pushed them to another level. That does happen in sports. That does happen in the NFL. This year, if there's going to be that effect, it should go the opposite way. So I'm not so convinced that just because we did it last year, we're going to do it again this year. And I know Detroit hasn't looked great so far this year, by the way. I'm very aware of that. Detroit looked better last year than they have so far this year. Absolutely. And again, I'm going to keep an open mind here. I'm going to sit down tomorrow night. I'm going to sit down in front of this game, watch it, hope we do good. And I can see it. This isn't me sitting down and waiting to get my butt whipped. Okay? I will sit down. I will see the path to a win. It involves Mike Macdonald doing something that should automatically win him Coach of the Year. If he pulls this off, just give it to him. And it involves Geno Smith playing like a superhero, which he has done before against this very team. So, that being said, I'm going Lions 30, Seahawks 24. I think we keep it close. I think Detroit gets the win. See you guys later. Go Hawks.